What's up, guys? What's going on, guys? What's going on, guys? What's going on, guys? What's going on? Okay. Amir, how's it going? Raja, how's it going? Yeah, that's right. Slow mode. You got to wait 20 seconds. You got to wait 20 seconds to make your. What's going on, Joel? What's going on, Mohammed? Alexandra, what's going on? Ahmed, what's going on? M. Zain, what's going on? Guys, give the video a like when you came in. Give the video a like. Manure, hello. Braun. Which logo is on the hat? I don't, there's no logo on my hat. Sammy, what's going on? I'm gonna let Instagram story know right now. It's sort of our standard procedure, isn't it? I have to let Instagram story know. Let's see. YouTube Q&A. Bran, Sammy, Miguel. What's going on, Miguel? Are you in Puerto Rico? Is that where you are? Are you in Puerto Rico? Miguel? All right. Instagram story now knows. Russian name that I can't read. Hello. Joel John. You're using my resources. Thank you. Javakir. What's going on? Raja. Patient safety for step 2 CK. Amir. Exam is in a week. You heard risk factors getting tested a lot these days. Risk factors are hit or miss. Okay, so it's something that people freak out about, but it's like they're overblown / overrated risk factors. What's going on, Case? What's going on, Case? Manure? No, I'm not going to do that. That's in our neuroanatomy PDF. But the whole thing about numbness distribution is overrated for USMLE. Like the notion, like if you ask students about conus medullaris versus cauda equina, they'll say they'll go right to the numbness. They'll be like, oh, it's perianal for conus and it's saddle for cauda equina, but that's maybe 20% of questions. The highest you'll think about cauda equina, I'd say 2 main points. The first is that you get urinary retention and basically 100% of vignettes. It's urinary retention plus or minus leg pain. The second point is that it's usually due to metastases. It's either someone getting out of bed where you're like, well, is it idiopathic? But it's usually Mets. They'll tell you someone has Mets, and then the answer will be or they'll give you history of cancer, and then the answer will be metastases to the cauda equina. Or the answer will be epidural spinal cord compression for 2CK neuro stuff. Bashan, hey Mike, hope you're doing well. Can we do the Anki without reading the PDFs? Yes, you can. Or is it better to read them first and then the Anki? You can do either. I've said that the Anki is about speed. The Anki is about speed. Okay, so if you do the Anki, then you don't have to do the PDFs, but if you do get the Anki, then it's really just about you're going to get through the content a lot more quickly. Because most of you guys can't read. Most of you guys, if you sit with the PDFs, you don't remember what you read. But if you do it with the Anki, then you're more likely to retain. Miguel, you're Nigerian. Well, I'm assuming Miguel is not a typical Nigerian name. I'm assuming that's not a typical Nigerian name. I mean, I had a roommate when I was in Australia and I was 20 and I was studying abroad there. I had a roommate who was from Puerto Rico, and his name was Miguel. Havakir, is it necessary to do the CMS forms twice for step 2? Yes, I've said that. So if you're on rotations, you're going to study from QBank, you're going to do the PDF in that rotation, you're going to do my YouTube playlist in that rotation, and then you would do the CMS forms twice. Okay, that's what we want right now. That's what we want right now. If you're post-grad, then you're just going to do all of step 2 QBank, and then you're going to Mehlman QBank, and then you'll do all the CMS forms, then you'll do NBME 6 through 8, you'll do all the CMS forms again, you'll come back, you'll do free 120, and then you'll do 9 through 15. RTC, Mike, you should add some music to the shorts you're putting out. I could, but I'm not. I don't really care. Like, they're very bootleg right now. I'm not about like being fancy and nuanced, and like, that's fine. Fucking music. Like, you need music. How about you just like pay attention to the substance of what the clip actually is, you know? Rather than just absorbing the clip, you're like, I need music. I can't listen to like USMLE advice unless there's music. You know, that's very, very typical for social media. You know, your attention is so fucking scatterbrained that like you can't just like handle 22 seconds of like a YouTube short without music. Crazy Russian name that I can't read that starts with an M. I failed step 1. Okay. You're starting again. Start with my PDF. All right. Okay. There's no question there. Roa. Alumide. What's going to happen with the current visa restrictions and IMGs? I'm not a visa expert. I don't know. It is a big issue for people in countries, especially in African countries. Any ideas? I'm not a visa expert. I don't know. But regardless of the visa situation, it's canceled out by the fact that you have a major advantage being from an African country applying to the US for the actual programs. Like maybe from a governmental, like immigration visa level, it's causing you hurdles. But like I was saying this in the prior live streams, like they would much rather take someone from Nigeria than like a random white dude like me in like a program. So it's a huge advantage being from a third world country. Huge advantage. You could score like 25 points lower, 30 points lower. Amir, what's going on? Brand, nice G-Shock. It's a yellow G-Shock. I collect G-Shocks. I like G-Shocks. I have to limit the number of G-Shocks I buy. Like I have to say, no, you're not allowed to have like a new G-Shock like once every 4 months, like maximum. Ahmad, what should I do next? All the MBMEs done 2028 between 80 to 88%. UWorld self-assessment 76%. When should I take my step? 80 to 88%. How much of a troll is that? How much of a troll is that? Like super high scores, right? You get people who would kill for those scores. Alexandra, you have a month until you take step 1. Should you do NBME or just keep doing UWorld? You're going to do NBMEs in the final 3 weeks, Alexandra. UWorld immediately up to your exam? Terrible idea. Horrible idea. Thank you, Daniela, for the super comment. Burhanu. Hey, Doc. Would you say something about personal statements for applicants and how to become a strong applicant? Personal statement is never going to get you in. This is important, guys. A personal statement is never, ever, ever going to like excite / stimulate / like galvanize a committee where they say, wow, this person has an amazing story and we want them. That's not what's going to happen. The personal statement's purpose is to assess your level of humility and responsibility, and whether you're a team player or whether you think about yourself. You understand? They're going to read your statement and they're going to know whether you're about yourself. Even if you have a lot of like positive things, like you led some group and you accomplished all these things, it's like, don't talk about like how amazing you are. Like, it's your chance to just like come off like a team player. Talk about like how you can be part of a team, ways that you've worked with a team. It's about assessing your level of humility. Like they're just going to look like, if I were on one of those committees, I would scan personal statements to be like, this person's full of themselves. You know, this person, like, they don't seem like a team player. That's what they do. Manure. Crazy Russian name. I don't, it starts with an M. What should you do? Well, you said you failed step one. I'm sure you didn't get our QBank yet, right? I'm sure you didn't get Mehlman QBank, because if you did, then you would know what you're supposed to be doing. You'd just be going through the QBank. That's literally like, you're like the epitome of like who should be doing our QBank. Is like, you already did the prior QBanks and you didn't pass. Like, I'm sure you did UWorld or Amboss when you didn't pass the first time, right? And then you're like, what do I do? I'm starting over. Hey, guess what? You got Mehlman QBank, try that. And you'd be like, fuck, this is way better. That's how it works. And then you'll do Mehlman Anki / PDFs in the evenings. Dr. Artie, you have your step one in a month. You mentioned 2 CUC resources. Where have you been getting your advice, Dr. Artie? Prodoku. Mike, I have my step one in a month. Should I do FA or UWorld? Like whom have you been talking to have such misguided, like, to have a misguided question like that? I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, like, your influences, like the voices that you've like interacted with, or the things you've read about like how you should prep for USMLE, completely misguided. It's amazing. It's amazing. That's a question you would ask in like 2014. And you're in a Mehlman live stream, right? Like, there's Mehlman content. It would be like you joining a UWorld live stream and then you're asking about Amboss or something. Like, that's literally what you just did. Like, someone, I'm not going to get into that. Roa, do you recommend? Here we go again. This is laughable. This is good stuff. Do you recommend Amboss library articles? No. As a supplement along with UWorld questions for 2CK? No. That's like equally misguided. Like, Artie Prodoku, it's a terrible question that like managed to usurp. Like, you managed to like, if someone's like, can you manage to like usurp like Artie for like more of a cuck question? Like, you managed to do that back to back. Amrith, what'd you eat today? I had a protein shake that I have like 10 different protein powders. I had a sweet potato flavored protein shake. Sweet potato is like really big in Japan and Korea. And I had a lot of steak. I had 500 grams of steak and a salad with salmon. Omer, I have a test on this Friday. What should I do, Mehlman? Is it your step one, Omer? DM asks, thoughts on taking unprescribed 30 milligrams Adderall until test day? Terrible idea. Terrible idea. You don't need that stuff. That stuff's going to lower your IQ also. You're going to burn out. You know, that's how it works with like substances, like even caffeine. There's always like whatever gain you get, you create a debt and you have to give it back. Like you'll take caffeine, you'll have like a tea or something very benign, innocuous, and then but it's a debt you got to pay back. The next day you're a little bit sluggish. You feel a little bit low mood or you're a little bit anxious. Like there's always like so like you're creating a debt with that Adderall where you just become like a fucking crackhead. That's like no pun intended. Like you're literally becoming a crackhead, actually. Those types of things are like a one-off, like ever. Like you take it once ever. Like once in like a year, you have it or something. Like, but I still wouldn't do that. Just caffeine. Mahmoud Hoskar, dude, I'm so happy that I've done the PDFs and audio QBank while doing QBank. Now I've started CMS forms. I already see results of doing the triad. Good. Truth K, hey Mike, I've completed 61% of UWorld for step 2 and I scored 47%. How do I improve? Anything to refer or learn? Thinking to take the exam mid-November. How do I prepare? A lot of questions. Just finish QBank for now. And then you're going to go to the CMS forms. I said this already. Finish QBank, go to the CMS, do all the CMS forms, 2 per day, 3.5 weeks. Do NBME 6 through 8, do a double pass of all the CMS forms. Free 120, 9 through 15. Sanjana, what is the best way of making notes? Don't make notes. Don't make notes. Those like the Instagram reels I've been putting up, I've been cross-posting to YouTube as shorts, and like there were some people who are very, very, very angry about like when I said don't make Anki cards from QBank. This has nothing to do with Mehlmanmedical. I'm saying like when you go through like QBank, don't make annotations or notes. And there were some people who were like very, very like angry about that. Like imagine getting emotional over like someone's YouTube short where their opinion is like to not do Anki, and I just blocked them from the channel. It's not a democracy, it's an autocracy. So like you get blocked and then you have no idea you got blocked, and then you can read your comments forever, but no one else can, and you don't realize you're blocked. It takes literally 0.1 seconds. I just mute the person, and then no one ever hears from you again for the rest of your entire insignificant life. Never be negative on a YouTube channel. They will block you in 0.1 seconds. My last NVMe was 66%. It's your highest one yet. Got my exam next month on the 20th of September. Should I buy your QBank and hammer it for the next 15 days and do the last 2 remaining NVMEs? Your exam's next month on September 20th. You've got to do NVMEs 20 through 31. That tells you I'm not full of shit, right? Because I could easily say, yeah, do my QBank. You got to do NVMEs 20 through 31 in the final few weeks. I mean, September should basically be like NVMEs 20 to 31. Now, if you want to do my QBank also, I'm flattered. And yes, it would help you. But I would still make sure you get NVMEs 20 to 31 done. But then by all means, do our QBank for step 2. Scrolling back up, chat with dummy. You guys have like some crazy usernames. Can't read that shit. What is the best way to study? Have a deep understanding of a topic? Is it repetition? Repetition is everything. Consistency and repetition. Mustafa, and made me 27 and 23 at 77, 81 respectively. UWorld self-assessment 2, 64%. The thing about UWorld self-assessments, I don't prescribe those. So the NBMEs are what matter. Okay, the NBMEs are what matter. But when you do take a UWorld self-assessment, we can't ignore that data point once it's there. Now, 64%, it's not good, but just take more NBMEs, Mustafa. Just take what you said, 27, 23. What about like the rest of them, 20 through 31, the ones you haven't set? Do those. And if you're scoring like 68 plus, 65 is a pass for USMLE step one. So if you do 68 plus, then on multiple NBMEs, then you're good. Don't worry about the self-assessment from UWorld. Oh, Mayor, I have a test on this Friday. What should I do? Why don't you specify which test you're doing this Friday? Limerence asks, Mike, it's taking time for me to complete 40, 80 questions per day in QBank. Any tips on how to do effective quick review to complete the quota each day? I've harped on this. Blocks of 10, untimed tutor random, and your phone is away. If you are not a business owner or a content creator, you have zero reason to be touching your phone for most of the day. You have zero reason to be touching your phone most of the day. So your phone should literally be in another like room, not even close to where you are. And you're not allowed to touch it while you're going through questions. I've said you do a block of 10, you're allowed to check your phone. I mean, not even, like you don't even need to. I just say that as like, it's like an emergency escape process for people who are that ADHD. It's like you're allowed to check your phone after every block of 10, but like just chop out blocks of 10 rather than like a monotonous block of 40. And that's like a much easier way to get through QBank. Crazy username asks, if you've taken NBMEs like 7 months ago, should you retake those if the scores were not great? You can retake them, but you can't use those for predictive value ever again. You can't interpret the scores. No, you're not allowed to use those for score prediction. So you could get like a 78 and you're like, wow, I did well, but like, it doesn't mean shit because you sat them before. But you'll do the so let's say arbitrarily you did like 25 through 28 7 months ago. And then we have you redo your whole schedule through this year or whatever. And then we say, we're doing the NBMEs again. What should I do? I would have you redo 25 through 28 first. We wouldn't care about your scores. Let's say you get like 80% on them. Hooray. But we don't care. Then I would have you do 20 upward, 20 to 24, probably free 120. And then I'd have you do 29 to 31. Alexandra, I think so. I did that. Amir. When people say Q's on the real deal are vague, what do you think they mean? I've done nearly all the NBMEs and never once seen a vague question. I've never heard someone say that, and that doesn't mean anything. The NBME questions are the same as the really USMLE questions. Sanjana, what's the best way of making notes for USMLE? You don't have to make notes. You don't have to make your own notes. Just read. Once again, people get like angry about that. Like, what do you mean don't take notes? I'm going to forget things. Well, just, the process is remembering, forgetting. That's how it works. You're not supposed to retain like 90% of what you do. You're supposed to retain maybe like 25%, but you do things on repetition over time. And then like those little bits add up, they agglomerate until you actually have like a good knowledge base. It's like a pixelation that becomes more clear, more lucid. Rita, my NBMEs were in the 40s. I need to bring it up to 60, 70 for CBSE in 2 months. I don't know how to balance the resources in 2 months. Are you doing Mehlman QBank? You're clearly not doing Mehlman QBank, Rita. You're clearly not. Because you front-loaded your statement with a cuck resource that I have not said to do. That's how you do it, though. You're just going to do Mehlman Step 1 QBank. That's what you got to do. Ahmad, you say you've had friends take the Step 1 with similar NBME scores, but found the exam super hard and they were flagging most questions. It's because they're nervous wrecks. Okay? It's about like gaining composure. It was super hard. It wasn't super hard. It was the same as your NBMEs. It's just pressure. It's escapism, you know? It's an observation that people want to, like, one of the ways they vent is to invent slash manifest these notions that, like, the exam is somehow different. That's like a form of venting. Like, you come out of the real deal and you just like invent slash synthesize like a myth, and then you like talk about it. It's like a form of like, it's like a defense mechanism almost. Bala Ganesh, can you make a video on how to prepare for step 3, especially during a busy residency in a month? Yeah, I could. I mean, I'm doing these like live streams, converting them into reels, you know? I mean, step 3, you're going to do Mehlman, step 3 QBank, and then you're going to do the CCS cases in the evenings, like 3 per evening. And you're going to do the CMS forms when you finish QBank, the same ones you did for 2CK. You're going to do all those for step 3. And then you're going to do 6 through 15, all the step 2 NVMEs correct for step 3. And then you do the step 3 NVMEs, and then you sit. Syed, can you write step 2 before step 1? Absolutely not. Because you'll get a lower score on step 2 if you sit it before step 1. And the whole thing is about getting a higher score on step 2, isn't it? Like, why would you voluntarily sit it prior to step 1 when you'll get a higher score if you sit it after step 1? You know, it doesn't matter, even if you're like more clinical right now, like even if you like, your knowledge base is more clinical, it's a bad idea to sit it before step 1. Mira, loving your QBank. It's much clearer than UWorld. I finished UWorld in the 50s, had 50%, maybe 25, went back to question start your QBank. Is it best to do next NVMe after finishing full QBank? Yes, you're going to finish Mehlman QBank, and then you're going to go to the NVMEs. And obviously 50% and maybe 25 is terrible. So you finish our QBank and then you go back to the NVMEs. I would have you redo 25. You get like your 75, whatever, but it's inflated because you already did NVMe 25, but you'll do it anyway again. And then you'll just go 20 to 24, free 120, 26 to 31. That's what you're going to do. KU5H, 7 days to go for step 1. What should I do? Well, I'd want to know which NVMEs you finished, because you should be on NVMEs 20 to 31 in the final few weeks. Should be pretty much just NVMEs at this point, right? Syed also could crush step 1 and step 2 in 8 months, question mark? Easily. Easily. What do you mean, do I have a plan for that? Of course. Easy. Very simple. I mean, I'm assuming you're post-grad, so you would literally do Mehlman step 1 QBank. You would do NVMEs 20 through 24, free 120, 25 to 31. And then you would sit step 1, and then you do step 2 QBank, Mehlman, and then you would do all the CMS forms. You would do 6 through 8 NVMEs. You do double pass of all the CMS forms, free 120, 9 through 15, sit step 2. Amir, what's your gym schedule? I go 7 days a week. Barney, thanks for being a member. Because your name's green, everyone else's is gray, so I know you're a member. Dr. Mike, do you think it's possible to take step 1 and step 2 before the end of this year if I'm currently scoring 50% my NVMe for step 1? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's delusional. That's delusional. You could sit step 1 before the end of the year. No, you're not going to sit step 2 by the end of the year. You're failing preclinical right now. That's like the equivalent. You getting a 50% on step 1 practice NVMEs is like you getting failing grades in second year of med school. And you're asking if you can graduate medical school in like by the end of the year. That's just so you know. Because if you pass step 2, you're ready to basically graduate med school from a theoretical knowledge standpoint, right? Vlogs by N with a pink ribbon asks, Doctor, I want to start preparing for step 1. Is 1 year enough? Or do you recommend a shorter period of time? Is 1 year enough for step 1? What do you mean? You can sit step 1 in like 3 months, 4 months maximum. So that's way too much. You could sit basically step 1, 2, and 3 within a year. Vlogs. Pragnesh, do you like the Japanese 7-Eleven? Yeah. There's, I think Lawson Station is the best, but it doesn't really matter. Lawson Station, Family Mart, and 7-Eleven. I've got 2 Lawson stations near my place. I live near a hospital. There's like a Lawson at the hospital. And then there's like another one. I've got a Hataké near my place that I really like. A Hataké is a rice paddy. So there's a rice paddy that I can see from my building, that I can see from my place. I really like that. Osman, 215 NBME 9. Exam after 2 months. You're on your second go of UWorld. Mehlman Internal Medicine playlist, what to do. Your second run of UWorld, terrible idea. Horrible idea. Where are the CMS forms in there? Why would you be doing a second pass of UWorld? It's a terrible idea. Do the CMS forms. NB, you want to take your step 1 in December, where to start? Which QBanks? What material to use and which NBME to use and when? My step 1, step 2 score goal is 260. Well, if you're taking your step 1 in December and you're asking which QBanks, guys, do you know which QBank to use? Do you know which QBank you should be using for step 1? You're going to do Mehlman QBank. It's 2,700 questions. You bust through that. And you're going to do our PDF/Anki, and you're going to do our YouTube QBank. The second QBank you can do is the YouTube. Be able to answer all those questions in the QBank. And then you'll do the NBMEs. Mohammed Bakar, is it right doing questions as much as you can? Is that the most important thing for step 2? Like basically it's doing questions and just studying the right, just studying the right. I'd say our Anki is really, really consolidated with the PDFs and questions, yes. Amrith, Vincent. Not gonna lie, sweet potato protein powder, question mark. It's good. In Korea, they have a cafe called Holly's, and they have like a sweet potato drink there. Like it's not something I'm like into. I'm just saying, it's like the first time I like heard of it. But then they've got like, if you order protein powders here in Japan, they got like some weird flavors. Like I've got pistachio protein. I got pistachio. I've got 2 different almond flavor proteins. Sweet potato flavored protein. Just different flavors. Lemon. I got like a lot of fucking flavors of protein. You got to blend it with ice. I got a blender, like a 2-liter blender, and I always use ice. And I've got like sometimes I'll throw things in there. Like I've got clove powder. I throw that into like the sweet potato protein. Aliz, your step 2 CKs in a month, NBMEs are stuck in mid 240s, UWorld self-assessment 245. Your aim's 250. How do I improve 10 more points? NBME's 12 to 15. And self-assessment 2 remaining. Did you do the CMS forms? I'd want to know if you did the CMS forms. If your step 2 CKs in a month. But you should basically have done those CMS forms and the other NBMEs, 6 to 15. But you didn't mention the CMS forms. Hafza. Your step 1 is in 2 days, which you do last minute stuff. I just put out a reel saying the day before should be very chill. And then 2 days out, you can like review biostats / your custom notes. Just make sure you know all the formulae. Just make sure you review that stuff. Burhanu, I'm only interested in family medicine. You start residency. How do you see applying to only one program? Why would you apply to only one program? Barney, you ask, what do you think of the use of atomoxetine during prep for USMLE? I would not recommend that. You don't need like stimulants like that. Caffeine only. Caffeine only. Will Doick. Like I've been scoring 270 to 280 on my, okay. How do you score 270 to 280 on the WACE? That doesn't make sense. That's not the scale. But live in Nepal and can't afford a plane ticket, please advise. But that's really funny. I like how I had to like figure out that you were joking. That's really funny. That's funny. Because I'll read like the first line of your paragraph rather than the whole thing. I didn't realize you were joking. Marwan, what about if you finish all of UWorld supplied by your videos and PDFs and you can't remind, I don't know what your question is, Marwan. Ibrahim wants to know how we get our Anki. How do you get your Anki? We've got that on the website, Mehlmanmedical.com. The Anki's there. I'm just scrolling down. NB, I'm working full-time in hospital. How many hours a week should I contribute to step 1? If you're working full-time in a hospital, you can't study for step 1. A few hours a day, tops, but that's not really study. You could try and knock out our QBank, like knock out 40 questions from Mehlman QBank a day or something. You could do that. USMLE 00 asks, is free 120 predictive as much as the NBME? It's the same as the NBMEs. I've said that. YBS, hey Mike, love your content. I plan on doing step 1 in December. NBME 17 to gauge my level. I got a 39%. Would going through your QBank thoroughly plus memo, the fuck does that mean? Be enough to get me up to 70s along with your PDFs. That's actually based on your intellect, to be honest. I mean, QBank, yes, it's enough. How many people every year do you think go through UWorld and Amboss and don't pass? A lot. And it's not hard. It's just like some people aren't good test takers. So you should easily be able to get to where you need to go through our QBank. But when you tell me you start with a 39, that concerns me. It means you don't know basic hormones. We're talking for a 39, you're getting questions like you don't know where the adrenal glands are. If I were to say to you, where are the adrenal glands? You'd be like, I don't know. I'm like, guess. You're like, I don't know. I'm like, are they in the brain? You're like, I don't know. Okay. Macrophage asks, hello from India, currently undergraduate medicine. Love your work. Keep guiding us. Solomon, can you finish step 1 in 6 months if you use 3 cuck resources that I don't recommend? The answer is no. Dinesh, I recently took an NBME practice exam and scored a 53 about a month ago. Since then, I purchased your QBank and I've been using it regularly. That's very, very excellent decision making, Dinesh. Very good decision making. Rashad, how to build up stamina for the real deal, question mark. My biggest challenge while doing the MBMEs, we're focusing 100% for all 4 blocks. I can't even imagine 7. When you're in the real deal, you'll be able to focus just fine. Like when you're actually in it and it actually matters, like you'll be fine. It's going to be the fastest day of your life going through it. Max, no, I'm not German, despite the name. I'm like 0% German. I'm white and a quarter Japanese. Dinesh, my current average score on your QBank is around 72%. Okay. Based on this performance, could you please advise me on when would be an appropriate time to schedule my step 1? I can't based on the percentage in QBank. You'd finish our QBank and then you go to the NBMEs, and based on your NBME scores, we would know. So we said 68 plus on 3 NBMEs is what you need. You're going to do 20 through 31 anyway. But don't worry about when you're actually in the midst of QBank. The actual percentages you're getting. Don't worry about that. Mike, what's an awesome score on step 2 as an IMG? Give me a range, Mike. Depends what you want to apply into, and it depends where you're applying from. This is not a joke. If you're applying from Africa, you could get like 20 to 30 points lower in match. If you're applying from probably like India or the Middle East, you would have to score higher. Probably same with like Pakistan and Nepal. You'd probably have a better chance of getting accepted if you're from Nepal, if you got like a 250 versus if you got like a 278, because nobody trusts high scores from Nepal anymore. I was saying the other day, if you're smart and you're in Nepal, you're going to have to leave Nepal. Or just say you're not from Nepal. But yeah, it depends. If you want like FM, IM, Surge, I mean, you just got to be not entitled and apply broadly in terms of your applications. Apply to transitional years, prelim years. YT bot, is it okay to drop out from medicine if you don't want to continue it? Finish med school, then change. At least you could get the degree. Get the degree and then quote unquote drop and then do something else. You can do that. Because you can still get hired. Like, if you wanted to have like some low key job somewhere, literally doing like, even if you wanted to like teach English in like Korea, you could rock up with a medical degree. I mean, I taught English for fun for like 6 weeks when I like 9 years ago when I first got to Japan. And I was like chatting with some like Japanese doctors, and they were like, "How the fuck do you know medicine?" And I didn't tell them I was a doctor, but I was like chatting with them about medicine. But when I applied for that job, I was like, I'm a doctor. You don't have to be a practicing doctor. You can do whatever you want. You could be a doctor and teach high school if you want. Biohazard asks, is it a good idea to read standard books if I have more than a year before appearing for the exam? The answer is no. It's a terrible idea. Just sit QBank, do QBank, sit the NBMEs, and then just sit the exam early. If you can. Fatima. Completed 50% of UWorld for step 2, average 59%. How do I improve my UWorld average percentage? Fatima. Just finish the QBank. Don't worry about your percentage. Fatima. Alistair. Just did your step 1. Planning to take my step 2 probably by June next year. I was thinking to do some UWorld initially and then the Mehlman step 2 QBank. Sound good? Terrible idea. Do our QBank first, then you can do Cuck UWorld. How does that sound? Why don't you reverse it? Sadiq, you scored 65 to 68 and 74 on your NBMEs. Are you ready? I'd want to know when you got the 65 because I don't like that. 65 means you passed by a singular question. I don't like that. I don't like that. But obviously your other scores are good. Itzi Yazan says, smile. Why are you always mad? M. Bray asks, how should I approach step 2 prep regarding your PDFs? Question mark. You already bought UWorld. Should I do your QBank after UWorld? I've said you can do that. You can juxtapose and compare, and you can see for yourself that ours is better. Firkendraw. Is the elective fundamental for the match? Question mark. If I don't do that, how does that affect my match rate as being an IMG? It's honestly hit or miss. Like, your 2CK score is what matters, and they're gonna wanna. That's gonna get you the interview, is the 2CK score, and then that is gonna. At that point, they're just gonna assess your level of hubris and whether you're a team player. The elective is more about getting just letters of recommendation to check off those boxes, but that's pretty much all it is. If you don't have letters of recommendation, that's different. Hashmat, is it possible to cheat on step 1? That's not a good question to ask, unless it was a trolling question. There's no shortcuts. I was saying, like, even those people who like cheated in Nepal, and I guess it wasn't limited to Nepal, it was other countries as well, but like, even like, there's some people who got away with it and they're probably like, they got through the system. Karma catches up. So they know they suck. They know they suck. So, you get someone with like a 281 or something, and they're at some good residency, and they're surrounded by people smarter than they are, and they always know that they suck. They're getting coffee with people who are smarter than they are. They're talking every day with people who are smarter than they are. And they're hanging out with people who are smarter than they are. And they always feel like they're not good enough. And I think that's the complex that they would develop. It's karmic. There's no shortcuts. Eric Williams, did you do residency? I graduated med school and then I moved to Japan. Limerence, I fucking love how straight to the point you are. I totally love your way of approaching the questions. Anon, I've completed 62% of UWorld with 48% correct, and I've gone through 15% of Mehlman QBank with 67% correct. Consistently scoring 60 plus on all blocks. Are the questions easier than UWorld's? Our questions are more similar to the NBMEs than UWorld's. But we don't really care about UWorld or AMBOSS. We're not really concerned. You can ask, that would be like saying, we're just not concerned about that. We're just focused on like making, the best resources. We're not really concerned about exactly like how harder, easier we are. We don't really care. That's actually something you can assess, but we're more similar to the NBMEs. Let me see. Lovely Libra, thanks for the super comment. Did you ever practice in the US? Are you in a relationship? Relationship or relationships? Where do you see yourself at 65? And why do people shit on people who want to apply to FM? Like, why do you think FM gets such a bad rep? I mean, people just chase cash. That's why they don't like FM. I've said this before. If pumping gas paid $700K a year, you'd get people with 270s lining up passionate to pump gas. So let's not be confused that like people don't have passion about dermatology. You don't give a fuck about skin, okay? You care about having a lifestyle with a certain amount of cash and low risk. That's all that these people care about. So, I mean, FM's pretty awesome. It's your experience on these things. Like, I mean, I did an FM rotation in rural Australia, and the guy who owned the clinic, he was a part-time archaeologist and rugby coach, and it's just really fucking cool guy, cool experience, cool clinic, cool people coming in the rural community. It's fucking awesome. That was fucking awesome. That's a long story. No, I didn't practice in the US. Why would I want to be around guns like that? It's 3:30 a.m. here in Japan right now. And like, I can go outside and just walk around. It's like, it's safe. Imagine doing that in like Brooklyn or something. Manhattan. Can't do that. Can't do that. What are your thoughts? Crystal, can I apply this cycle? I'm still studying for step 2. You have to have step 2 before you apply. It's mandatory. Crystal. Dave, thanks for your daily questions. Invaluable when I studied for step 2 a couple months ago. Thanks, Dave. User 2020, are you planning or recommending your future mini shelf banks for additional preparation of step 2 besides your current? Of course we are. Of course we are. We're making mini shelf QBanks right now, 1,000 plus questions each. EM, FM, IM, Surge, PEDS, OBS-GYN, Neuro, Seg. So it's going to be 8,000 plus questions additional. And so you'll do step 2 or step 3 QBank, and you say, well, I suck at PEDS, I suck at OBS-GYN, I'm going to do that mini QBank 1,000 questions. You can do all of them, or you can do them with your rotations. That's what we're going to recommend. So when you do like, they're going to be out within like 3 months, I'd say. All of them. So when you're on like PEDS rotation, you would do the 2CK QBank for PEDS, you would do, or you could do it in random mode, doesn't matter. And you would do our PEDS shelf QBank of 1,000 plus questions, and you would do the PEDS PDF, you do the PEDS playlist on the YouTube, you do the PEDS CMS forms, you'd honors PEDS, you would honor PEDS, all of the rotations that way. But they're not going to be inexpensive. So there's going to be a lot of like whiny people. But we're okay we're okay if poor people can't access our stuff, because we don't want whiny, disingenuous, slimy people getting access to our stuff. Ange, did NBME's 25 to 31 stuck in the low 60s? How can I judge if I'm improving now that I've taken all those NBMEs? How much longer should I wait to take step one? You're stuck in the low 60s. Do you have an exam date, Ange? Eng? I'd want to know, like, did you take 20 through 24? Did you do those NBMEs as well? When did you get the low 60s in 25 through 31? How much QBank did you do? And how flexible is your step one date? I'd want to know. The Olcora 444 says, can you comfortably say you're the apex of medicine? That's a question of hubris. That's a question of hubris. How much studying is allowed on the day before the exam? I wouldn't study the day before, not past lunchtime. I know you said it should be, yeah, exactly. It should be chill. Don't study past lunchtime on the day before your exam, if at all. What percentage should I aim for finishing your step one QBank before I take my first NBME? Do the whole QBank. Unless you mean percent correct, but I don't care what your percent correct is. And if you're rushed for time, just do as much as you can. Is there any other country that you can apply for residency using USMLE results? I believe so. I believe so. Yes, the answer is yes. Okay. Israel/Palestine, you can use USMLE there. How's that? Right? Israel/Palestine. If you say only Israel, if you say only Palestine, you know, you get real heated real fast, politics. So let's just say Israel/Palestine. You're allowed to use your USMLEs there. I know that. What motivated you to move to Japan? Well, that's not like politically correct to answer that. That's not politically correct. That's a long discussion. Are you guys here for like Mike's personal story, or are you here for like USMLE? You're like, I want USMLE, right? Talk to me about USMLE. How do I get my scores up? Talk to me about my scores. Rajan, any difference in prepping for CBSE for dental? Since the answer is no. No, you prep the same way. Amir, I'm amazed at how you answer the same questions for us students over and over again without ever showing frustration. What do you mean? I'm very frustrated answering the same questions over and over again, but I'm aware that that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. That's actually the process of growing as a junior influencer, is answering the same dumb shit over and over again and making content on the same stuff over and over again at scale. That's what you have to do. How to study the nervous system for step one. Well, you got neuro PDF. You've got neuro PDF when you also got neuroanatomy PDF. User 2020, I'm going to answer your question because you're in green there. You're a member. You said that we should start studying for step 1 before step 2. However, doing your Anki is like studying for both simultaneously. It's a Venn diagram. There's overlap between the steps, believe it or not. Believe it or not, mitral valve prolapse for step 1 is mitral valve prolapse for step 2 is mitral valve prolapse for step 3, believe it or not. Polymyositis on step 3 is still polymyositis on step 1, believe it or not. There's some management details, yes. Like, you could say anti-Jo1. I mean, that shows up on step 1. You could order that test for step 3. Electromyography and nerve conduction studies shows up for polymyositis. That's definitely like a step 2, step 3 point, yes. But like CD8 plus infiltrate with an endomysium, I mean, that's step 1. And then dermatomyositis or not dermatomyositis, polymyalgia rheumatica, right? You got to know these mechanisms, these different diseases. But the cards that are step 2 and step 3 only, I explicate that on the cards. I write like 2CK3 only. I say that on the cards. You're one of my few role models, and I believe your intelligence in medicine is rare and outstanding. D, I'm scoring 40% and maybe 25. It's terrible. You want to sit step in November. It's not going to happen. Okay, don't allow me to be a deterrent. You can go up 10% per month. I would say end of November. D, end of November. If you do Mehlman, QBank, and Anki hardcore. I say the Anki is the same as PS. You need speed. You need speed. You would have to do like 7 days per week, like 8 to 12 hours a day of study and not take a day off. Because 40% means you know nothing. I said this before when someone else was saying they had 39%. 40% means you don't know where ACTH is secreted from. That's what 40% means. Say, where is ACTH made? You would say, you'd think about it. You wouldn't know. It's mainly anterior pituitary, right? I'm just telling you where you're at when you're at 40%. I know this based on like countless students. I interact with people all over the spectrum, and I know where 40% is. And 40% is like, you know nothing right now. So the notion that you're going to pass the licensing exam for the United States in 3 months is like, if you go through Mehlman, QBank, and Anki and your retention is good, then you can get up there into the 60s for sure. It's like if you run for an hour a day and you lift for an hour a day and you do abs for 30 minutes every single day, it's impossible that in 3 months you wouldn't be fit. It's like that with the content. It's impossible that if you do like Mehlman, QBank, and Anki and YouTube videos for 3 months, 8 to 12 hours a day, it's literally impossible that you wouldn't pass, in my view. So if you didn't pass, it would be you're not doing the content the way you're supposed to, you're taking time off, or there's difficulties with the learning. I'm going to answer like one more question because I got to take a Zoom call. Can you believe that? I have a Zoom call at fucking 3:45 a.m. my time. Answer one more. Crowstone, you missed my live from a long time ago. It was really helpful back then. You got done with step 1 and 2, you got 238. Wish QBank was live then. Crozone.